I started my career as a software developer. And for the first 5 or 5.5 years, I worked as a core software developer on a number of technologies. What does Salesforce management actually mean? Then Salesforce has been acquiring some industry giants like Tableau and Slack, right? And Salesforce has already a product by the name of Einstein Analytics.
Yeah.
And now with the power of Tableau, so they are going to merge the two eventually. And Salesforce, I have worked on a couple of no-code, low-code platforms, but for me, I haven't seen any platform easier than Salesforce.
Hi, everyone. Today, in this episode of Picking Brains, I have one of my very old associates, Zeshan, with me as a guest, and he has been associated particularly with the Salesforce space, Salesforce-related services for a very long time. And the reason I asked him to be part of the conversation in today's episode was because I think that he has a lot of knowledge and experience he'd like to share. We could That could give us an idea about that, how this area is expanding and how anybody can develop skills to really ace their career in this. But Zishan, thank you so much for making the time. I know you're a pretty busy guy, and you made this time to speak with us. I really, really appreciate that. Want to get started with a little bit background on you for the audience.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. And first of all, Wakar, thank you for having me on the call. So it's an honor for me to share all the knowledge that I have accumulated in the recent past, right? So a brief background, I'll try to keep it as quick as possible because we have a lot of ground to cover.
Okay.
So I started my career as a software developer. And for the first 5 or 5.5 years, I worked as a core software developer on a number of technologies. I graduated in computer science from PAF, Karachi Institute of Economics and Technology. And over this period of, let's say, 5.5 years, so there were multiple levels of, I would say, personal growth or professional growth. I had various discussions with a lot of my colleagues, and some of them revolved around, let's say, everyone has this discussion when you are a fresh graduate. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What's the purpose of this field that you are working in? So I worked in video game programming, video game industry. I
Hmm.
worked in on a banking application, even on even before Android became mainstream. So I worked on a Java related platform. So those were a lot of platforms. I worked on Visual Studio.net and created custom applications. But back then, I would say, a bit confused that how to move forward with my career, how to progress forward. Then I would say that I had this discussion. It was a really soul searching, very introspective session with one of my team leads. And I am grateful for his advice that he imparted to me. He said that since you have worked on a number of applications, on a number of technologies, so I think so you are not getting that fulfillment that you are supposed to drive from being a software developer. You need
Hmm.
to move to a much more abstract role. You need to move towards business processes. You need to move towards how those processes interact, how they evolve. That is when I started thinking about seriously about my career growth. And I landed into an MBA program at Lumps where where we met first time. So over there, and since we learned uh, a number of subjects regarding marketing, finance, operations, and so on, somehow coincidentally, the majors or the electives, as I should put, I selected were around operations slash technology, marketing and sales, and at the very end, I would say the courses were related to leadership and HR.
Mm.
And call it destiny, call it fate. We had a course at LUMS by the name of Salesforce Management that was in the Salesforce.com.
Yeah, it wasn't Salesforce.com, but I remember that
Yeah,
course. Yes.
exactly. And I had a friend from school. he worked. I mean, that was the only person that I knew personally who would be able to impart that knowledge with me. So I asked him that what does Salesforce management actually mean? And the answer that he gave me, this is back in 2013.
Mm,
And he told me that Salesforce is a software and it's a CRM software. Then I got even more confused that how to move forward with it. I shared the table of contents of our course with him, and he then understood that I'm talking about the sales fleet management, right? So that was the first mention of Salesforce in my life. Then after that, fast forward, I graduated from LUMS, and then I'm enjoying being jobless because of the heating and beating that we received during that intensive program. And over here, I was again confused that how to move forward with my career. Now I have a strong IT background, and now I'm not sure whether I want to go back to the IT industry or not. So I would say I felt lucky now when I look back.
mm.
I stumbled over it. A friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, he told me that there is this company, they're looking for a business analyst. It's related to a process called CRM. I, coming from LUMS, already knew about CRM, having studied those case studies around Siemens and
Yeah.
stuff. I think so. Oracle was also there.
Yep.
So I kind of knew what CRM is, but this was the first time that I was about to actually face it upfront.
Mm,
So I took the plunge. I got lucky. I would say, in my career, if I look back, I jumped on the first opportunity that I got
mm,
because it was always better to have a job rather than staying at home. Of
mm,
course, you do enjoy your free time after a tough graduation session, post-graduation session, I mean.
mm.
But it should eventually end at some time. So
Sure.
that is how I landed onto the Salesforce platform.
Mm,
And during my interview, I asked my interviewer, why are you asking me technical questions? I am applying for a non-technical job. That is when he told me that some of the best business analysts are those who have a technical background. So
mm,
that is how I realized this fact that maybe this blend of technology
mm,
and a business education, I think so that is most conducive to me in the unique situation that I am.
mm.
And that is how I moved forward with the Salesforce career and then realized it bit by bit.
Very nice, very nice. So to summarize, like you had the technical background of coding, and on top of that, you got your MBA, which equips you with the business acumen about the processes and what businesses actually thrive for to make money or be profitable and all of that. So
Yep.
getting into Salesforce, which is not just a CRM company anymore, they offer a lot of different clouds, which cover a lot of different industries and their business processes. But both of these things enable you to be in a perfect spot that a lot of other people couldn't, I would say, qualify for. So you become a
Yeah.
business analyst over here. You can understand the business side of the things, and you can appreciate the technical side of the things. You could be a bridge in order to deliver these services. So currently, your role in your current organization is Salesforce business analyst, correct?
Yeah, I started out as Salesforce business analyst, but over here, since we work on multiple stacks, right?
Okay.
Multiple technologies. So since I have been over here working as a lead business analyst for the past couple of years.
Hmm.
So Salesforce now, previously it was entirely Salesforce. Now Salesforce is one of the core competencies that I'm working on. And currently I'm also working on other non-Salesforce related business analysis that is very different. It challenges me in a lot of different ways. So I'm working on two sort of, I would say, ecosystems. One is the Salesforce and one is business analysis around business intelligence, BI tools.
Okay. Is there any specific tool that you have expertise on, or it could be Tableau, ClickView, Power BI, or
Yeah,
anything?
Tableau still comes under Salesforce ecosystem,
Yeah.
but it's Tableau, and there is one tool that we specifically use. It's not actually a BI project, but we are using that BI tool in order to drive data analytics on our for our client. So we are
Right.
using Metabase.
Okay.
Metabase is
Database.
an
I didn't
an
hear.
online
I
cloud-based BI tool.
Okay, that's a new one for me. And okay, obviously. So let's get into your role, and that's what we are here for. So, like, if you're a lead business analyst, let it be on the Salesforce side or on the BI side, or
Right.
even if there's a custom application development project. So, talk to me like a little bit about this role. Like, my understanding is this: the business analyst comes in when they are gathering the requirements, creating the scope, identifying the risk areas and other challenges around that. But is this all that you take care of, or like what are the overall during the course of the delivery of the project? What are the areas that you kind of cover?
Right. So I'll answer this in two parts. First is a generic business analysis, and then I will focus more towards Salesforce business analysis because the expectations are slightly different. So when it comes to generic business analysis, then of course, the client, you have to act as the face of your company in front of the client. The client does
Okay.
not know what your company is. They barely know they basically just know the name. They don't know who your project manager, who your director is.
Hmm.
For the client, you are the source of truth, and you are that particular bridge that is connecting the client with with the technical team. And that is when both the technical as well as the business acumen come into play.
Okay.
So you have to be able to understand that jargon that the client is using so that the client is able to better explain their problem. And then you have to be able to convert that problem in a way so that you can derive those, as you mentioned earlier, you can drive those business requirements. And
Mm.
then ultimately you have to be able to speak that technical jargon. Nobody is asking me to write code, but some high level technical concepts basically are come in really helpful.
Mm.
Like if you have a basics of like what a relational database is, what
Yes.
are object models and so on, what are use cases, then it makes your life a lot easier because then your technical team can wholeheartedly rely on you that Zishan is the person, I mean, who is the source of truth for the client, and he will be able to share that information in a way that makes our life easier and which is not ambiguous.
Mm.
So that's one part of it about the requirements gathering. So after requirements gathering, aiding the team in creating a high level solution design, vetting that solution design so that the requirements are basically fulfilled, right? And then you have to also assist or let's say lead the quality assurance team, the QA team, because they are the ones who are relying on you for the business knowledge. One small component regarding business requirements is now, since most of the companies that I know are working on an agile framework,
Mm.
so it comes on to the business analyst shoulders to write down user stories and
Okay.
have them groomed, take ownership of it, talk to the product owner, hash them out, and then take the technical team on board when you're grooming those stories. Because the better the stories are, the more refined the stories are, the more chances of a successful implementation there will be.
Mm.
So I would say that's a high level of generic business analysis. There's a
So
lot more to it.
yeah,
Go
just to
on.
summarize, like you start your job when a client has a need, but you have to speak with them and understand their requirements, have them documented in the form of user stories. And after that, when you mentioned that you'll be involved in the solution design. So I'm assuming it's going to be the technical design of their product or their solution, like what the database going to look like, what will be the architecture, data models and stuff like that. So that's also going to be something you're going to be participating in,
Mhm.
and then making sure
Right.
that based on those requirements that you have gathered, you have enabled the QA team that once the coders are done with their development, the QA team can come in and they could evaluate what they have done in the with keeping in context that hey, these were the actual requirements. So they have to benchmark the actual implementation against that. So in a
Right.
nutshell, we can say that you, as a lead business analyst, you're not off the hook until the project has been delivered as per the client expectations
Absolutely.
and agreement. Correct?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And that's why just like a doctor is never on a leave, right? Never on a holiday. So similar is the job description of a business analyst. So they have to take complete ownership because two ends of the deal, the technical team as well as the client, they are completely relying on you. So the
Okay.
stakes are quite high
All right.
for this job.
Okay. So I guess that again, I have been associated with the IT services space for near a decade now. And what I've seen is this, that, you know, like you mentioned that you are as a business analyst, you are the face of the organization, and this is the very first interaction they're going to have probably after signing the contract, or maybe during your pre-sales acquisition stage as well. So it's very important that you create the right um, experience for your clients. Now the challenges
Yes.
that I've seen over there is that again, it depends on the size of the company and other stuff. However, I've seen that clients are not very comfortable spending so much time in the requirement gathering session because they think that, they're getting billed for something that they are communicating to you. Like they have an idea or they have a problem statement, you're asking questions for them to detail out. So they're not getting anything tangible, like they haven't seen any product in working or in function. And they want to like cut short that, and they want to say that, hey, we are like spending too much time over there. So
Hmm.
managing those expectations, like it is a valuable and important piece of the whole project, and making
It
sure your
definitely
client is happy. Have you ever been in a situation where you have to
is.
tackle that situation where client's not happy, comfortable giving you so much detail, spending so much time in the requirement gathering session, but you still trying to make it work and educate them at the same time creating the documentation? Specifically, how do you respond to that? And in general, what are the three major things that you do in order to ensure that client is getting the right experience as in your role as a business analyst?
Hmm. Right, right. So the first thing that I would say, the most important uh, trait or character trait or responsibility that lies on our shoulders is to be able to better communicate with the client. So if you are able to, let's say, have that connection with them, that they feel confident and they feel comfortable, so that it does not feel like an interrogation session, it feels like more of a conversation,
Uh-huh.
then they would be able to go the extra mile with you. So I have had such clients that based on just if I just requested them to have, let's say, for maybe a month or two, if I was quite tied up, then I would just request them to move the call times, meeting times to, let's say, some time which were after hours for them. So they were able to accommodate that as well, happily.
Mm.
So I've had such clients as well. And then there are some rigid clients, because just like you don't get to choose your bosses, you don't get to choose your clients. So some of them are so rigid that you have to go the extra mile. And even then, if they don't, let's say, cooperate with you, then you have to somehow hold workshops, or let's say have those sessions, so that you can basically understand what the problem is. So recently, just sharing an experience with you, that we were
Sure.
working with a client and we were having this workshop, and so there was some data inaccuracy and we were unable to pinpoint that out. So when I told the stakeholder to walk me through the steps that she takes, then I realized that it was a training issue and she has been working with the team for the last 8 years.
Mm.
So, and she basically deals with like 30% of those business transactions. So
Hmm.
that means there is a 30% chance that the things would not go in the intended direction because of a lack of training. So that is something that we observe. So you observe, you communicate, and then you observe, right? Based on your observation, you have to be able to take out those insights that you can basically create work items on. And on the third point, I would say critical thinking basically is one of the most important aspects of a business analyst, because you have to stay curious throughout a project, throughout your professional, I would say, experience, because you need to be. So the one, if I just identify one defining trait in my personality that enables me to perform my job better, is that curiosity, that skill that helps me solve problems. I love to solve problems. I love to stay in the middle of problems. So let's say if there is no problem to solve, then I really feel that maybe I'm missing out something in life.
Got it.
So that is an important, I mean, some people look for comfort zone. You have to strive for growth, strive for challenges, strive for helping people.
Mm.
Because if you lack the empathy, then you will not be able to create that bridge with some
Wonderful.
reluctant clients.
Wonderful.
So yeah, so I would
So,
say it's a
uh,
blend of these
so I
characteristics.
would say, based on what you just said, I think that there are four P's of marketing, then there are four C's of business analyst
Mhm.
or by business analysis, and those four C's are number one, courtesy,
Yeah,
number two, curiosity, number three, critical thinking, and number four,
right.
communication. So we just made those
Absolutely.
four C's
Brilliantly
about
put.
that.
Yeah, you
All
just
right.
nailed it.
The four C's, how to, go about being a business analyst. Got it. One last question on your role, and then I think we should move on. And I'm just being curious now. So
Yeah, sure, sure.
what I've seen is this, that you have the business acumen, I get that, and you have a very good stronghold on your solution, which is Salesforce that we are talking about right now. However, there are like diverse set of industries. For example, if I'm a business analyst, if somebody is explaining to me their, I don't know, sales process could be relatively easier because they're more or less, same. There is
Similar.
few
Yep.
nuances that one company is trying to call something an opportunity first and then call it qualified afterward. The other say it's qualified and then opportunity. That's just a, semantics. But there are other, business areas, business functions as well, and different industries are set up in a different way. For example, if I am going to work with a healthcare provider like a hospital, and they're
All right.
trying to implement health cloud where they will be storing patient information, and their diagnosis reports and their follow-ups or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, so
Mm-hmm.
there
Yeah.
is going to be a relatively more niche understanding of that space that is required, and
Yep,
I could
that will
spend
be.
some time do that. And maybe, a month after, I'm speaking with a client who is an investment banker. Okay, they
Yep.
would have
Yep.
altogether a different process. And then I'm speaking with somebody who are in the logistics industry. They're all together set up in a different way. And then an insurance company, so
Absolutely.
on and
Yep.
so forth. So my question is, while you have the business acumen, but these industries are pretty different in terms of their processes and how they are set up, and you are, going to speak with that client as an expert. But if you don't know their industry inside out, and you're going to be asking questions that are like pretty basic, don't you think your client's going to think that you are not equipped to do this job right? And if they do think that like that, how do you overcome these challenges when there's so much diversity in the industries and their processes?
That's a wonderful question. And over here, I would just say that that's the beauty of being a business analyst, that
Uh-huh.
you don't know, you don't have the complete visibility of where you are heading. All you have is you have this empirical approach, the scientific approach
Okay.
that enables you, that curiosity basically, that enables you to do your homework, do your analysis, understand the industry background. So there are multiple ways, multiple tactics to engage clients, right?
Hmm.
So if you are selling, if you're selling to the client that you are an expert in healthcare, right? But if you don't have any experience to prove that track record, then in that case, the client would basically start losing confidence or basically doubt some of your skills. And that is when they start getting a bit rigid.
Okay.
So if you are open with the client, right? When in more often than not, and most of the times, what I have seen is if you are able to, let's say, share 3 out of 5 points with the client, and if you tell the client that you are unaware of, let's say, point 4 and 5, in that case they are willing to hold your hand because you have gained some confidence that this
Hmm.
person knows how the industry norm goes, but he is not aware of how our business process is modeled out. So over here there are industry practices, and then there is the specific client. So you need to have, like, say, maybe 60 to 70% of those industry practices under your belt. And of course, that's where the never-ending learning process of a business analyst goes. So the idea is, being a business analyst and a consultant, because I have consultancy
Hmm.
background as well. If I summarize this in one line, you have to be the smartest person in the room.
Mm.
So even if, and that is where I would say I would give credit to Lums that they have enabled me, because the number of case studies that we have studied, and of course after that my consulting experience, so they both have enabled me and giving me this vast diversity of experience, uh, gaining confidence in the face of uncertainty, because that's where the beauty of business analysis lies. That's when you're able to cash your skill.
Yeah, there was a
But
lot of uncertainty that you dealt
yeah,
with back in the day.
yeah, exactly.
I remember that. So again, what you're saying is this, that number one, if you are coming across an industry that you don't have a lot of understanding about, obviously number one thing is that you have to do your homework. Like you can't really
Right.
be blank in front of your client and just
Absolutely. Yeah.
hold my hand and walk me through this. So that's not going to happen. So you do your homework and then try to show them that you have created
Mm.
some value up front, and then after they have seen that value based on your hard work
Yes.
and homework and the
Right.
questions that you asked, then if there are like certain things that you lack, they can help you with that. And also most of these industry and the people who operate in this industry, they also understand that we are in a certain niche and they don't expect
Absolutely.
that
Yep.
everybody in the world would understand these domains like we do. So you got to show
Yep.
that. So
Yep.
it's more like, I would say, it's an art. Like business analyst is sort of an art. Like it has softer side of the skills rather than
Hmm.
hardcore, getting the requirement, using stories, solutioning, and whatnot.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So Nishan, so far I must say that the experience that you have shared about your role and things you've been doing is pretty awesome, and I guess that a lot of
Sure.
people
Thank
could
you.
learn from that. So thank you so much, and there are like we can have a more detailed conversation about that if we're not up against time. uh,
Hmm.
w- Tell me about your understanding, since you have been associated with Salesforce for a pretty long
Hmm.
time. What is your worldview about its adoption in the future? Is it gonna increase? Is it gonna decrease? If it's gonna increase, why it's gonna increase? Why is it a better option versus somebody building a proprietary software according to their own needs, because they don't have to then, you know, do the customization and then pay the licensing fee, have your own software? What are the pros that you get if you go with Salesforce, and why do you think it's going to its adoption going to increase? And I asked you this question now, where very recently almost 10% of the workforce has been laid off by Mark Benny, of the co-founder and the CEO of the company, which is
Yes.
sort of an indication to me that maybe the businesses that they are targeting or they're serving are not looking to expand, not looking for more services. So again, it's a long-winded question. Let me summarize this. That why
Hmm.
Salesforce going to increase when people can develop their own custom software product? There are,
Yep.
sort of offshore companies who could do that for you. Number two, they are laying people off. So against these two uh, points, why do you think it's going to keep increasing? Or unless you say that it's not going to increase, it's going to decrease. What's your thought on that?
So firstly, I would like to tackle the question for why do I believe that Salesforce is here to stay, right? So firstly, Salesforce, the ease of use, the with which the user experience, I would say, the ease of use that Salesforce offers to a layman, I have seen that it is much more easier to use. It's much more easier to adopt than a normal application that I built out of the box, or let's say in-house. So yeah, and regarding Salesforce, I would say that over the past 3 or 4 years, if you look at the trend, then Salesforce has been acquiring some industry giants like Tableau and Slack. So they were some of the biggest technology, I would say, acquisitions in history, right? Particularly Tableau, because Tableau is regarded as an industry leader in the field of business intelligence, right? And Salesforce has already a product by the name of Einstein Analytics,
Yeah.
and now with the power of Tableau, so they are going to merge the two eventually.
Okay.
Similarly, it goes for Slack. Slack is another giant when it comes to one of the coordination tools that's used primarily in agile teams.
Mm.
So yeah, that's one indication. And then secondly, I would say for a technical person or for a techno-functional person, the aim which Salesforce, so if I compare Salesforce that is today with Salesforce that was like 8 years back, then 8 years back, there was a lot of functionality that wasn't, I would say, drag and drop development. So point and click, or let's say point and click development. That's
Mm.
the
Low
basically the
code,
adage.
low code,
The no code, yeah, the no
low
code,
code
low
or low
code
code platform.
adage.
Yep.
Yep, exactly. And Salesforce, I have worked on a couple of no code, low code platforms, but for me, I haven't seen any platform easier than Salesforce. So even if it takes the competitors, let's say Microsoft, Oracle, or any and even SAP, then in that case they would have to develop this capability in their platform, and Salesforce already has a first mover advantage with that. Secondly, Salesforce has a huge, a rich library of applications that you can get that you don't have to develop yourself. So just like a Play Store on
Yep.
Android or iTunes for
App
app,
Exchange.
yeah, exactly, the App Exchange. So it's a plethora of applications of functionality that you can just wield at your fingertips.
Whole
And
ecosystem.
Salesforce, yeah, absolutely. And the Salesforce is free to learn. So you don't need to buy any course. Salesforce has a very, I would say, user-friendly platform by the name of Trailhead,
Yep.
trailhead.salesforce.com. So I basically use it to prepare for my certifications and basically learn new stuff on Salesforce. That is an ever-growing body of knowledge that Salesforce is imparting for free. So based on these ideas, based on these efforts, and of course, some of the industry, some of the large companies like Google, Amazon, they're using Salesforce internally for their for managing their CRM opportunities for their CRM ventures.
Mm.
So I think so based on these steps that Salesforce is taking, based on its market share that is of today, I don't think so Salesforce is going anywhere as of now. But as we all may know that we are standing at the verge of another recession,
Potential
right? And
recession.
potential recession. Yeah, let's say that to sound optimistic. Yeah. So I think so. If I could recall the companies, I think so. Twitter, Facebook, Salesforce,
Yeah.
and a number of companies they have laid off their employees. And the reason, the predominant reason, based on my research and understanding, were that
Mm.
this is sort of like a market correction. That
Yep.
Salesforce and all of these tech IT leading companies, they had hired a lot of employees back then during the COVID times.
Mm.
And now, when they are facing this brick wall of recession, then
Nice.
they have to let go a few of them so that they can end
Yep.
up being profitable and keep on providing these awesome services to their clients.
Awesome. I agree with what you're saying, based on my research that I've done. So just to summarize, what you're saying is this: number one, that Salesforce is already ahead of the curve. They are very innovative. They are adding more clouds, more functionality, and their innovation is headed where they're not only just adding more functionality, but also at the same time trying to make it easier for the end users to use and adopt this. And wherever they think that they are lacking in any area, instead of reinventing the wheel, they went out and they make the acquisitions. And they didn't just do the acquisition of some unknown companies, but the companies which were already a big brand in their respective area. Like for collaboration, it was Slack, and for business intelligence, it was Tableau. And with that, they are, continue to add more value, potential value to
Yep.
their end users. So they're going to stay here. But right now, like you said, it's a market correction because of the COVID, there was a massive surge in the digitization and the corresponding services that people were asking for, and it was like the demand was more than the norm, and now
Yep.
things are going back to normalcy. So that's why we are saying that there's going to be a little bit of contraction, and then things would go back to normal. So I am with you, that I think that is also what my understanding is. But see, how things gonna pan out. Anyway, one last question, and I think we are
Mhm.
already out of time.
Right.
What's your suggestion? Like, if somebody has to, what I've seen is this, that, Salesforce is still, um, we're talking about the global perspective. Okay, maybe you're gonna find some awesome business analysts and platform developers and architects in certain geography. But if you talk about India or Pakistan or some other offshore centers, what I've seen is this, that the capabilities that we have in the custom software development in terms of the maturity and the grasp of the processes and how to create customer experience in the space of custom software development, it still lacks. Like there are Salesforce developers, architects, project managers, business analysts, solution architects, everybody over there, but they're still, like I would say, they're still learning how to, because the customer over here is slightly different than the one who's asking for the custom product to be developed. So question for you is this, that number one, what are your tips that people in these areas who are considering taking up careers in Salesforce, let it be a developer or a business analyst, how can they really improve in terms of their orientation towards customer? And the other part is this, are there any like non-technical people who doesn't have a software development background, are there any roles in the Salesforce ecosystem that they can still take up? You had the technical background, I didn't. If I want to do something in Salesforce because it's going to be huge in the future, what are the areas I could explore? So two questions, and you can one by one respond to them.
Right. So the first question was how to improve yourself as a Salesforce consultant, I believe, right?
Overall, yes, how to improve,
Yeah.
because I think there's still a certain maturity that lacks in certain geographies which say that they provide Salesforce related services.
Yeah. So a couple of things. That's an interesting one. A couple of things that come to mind is first, you need to acknowledge and understand that quality is a function of time as well. So basically, what a lot of offshore companies do, they, for example, if it's a 400-hour project, right, and they sell the project for like 300 hours, and then it creates a quality crunch,
Mm,
and the teams have to deliver that, and it's so quality is basically the last thing on their mind. It's just you need to meet the bare minimum expectations, I think. So that's where uh, customer satisfaction lies, the non-functional requirements. So a hack that a lot of companies do is they sell the project short, right? And they undersell the project, I mean. And then after that, they sell support contracts. And
yeah.
those support contracts extend till perpetuity. But if you think from a customer's perspective, if someone offers me a service that is basically, it offers like, it does the job, but it just does the job, it does not give me any enriching experience, then I would probably not recommend that particular service over to my friend or to a colleague. So in
Mm,
that case, so that's the first thing that I would say, to
right.
be able to better estimate your project and then price it accordingly. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Secondly, very Salesforce specific stuff. Salesforce evolves every 3 months, right? You get release notes. So a lot of the consultants, it's your responsibility
Good.
that we have to at least understand or basically go through those release notes. It's a huge bulk of like 600 pages every 4 months, right? Sorry, every 3 or 4 months. Yeah, every 4 months, I guess. So yeah, and you have to go through that, but not just all of those 600 pages. You have to go through it smartly. There are various highlights shared by Salesforce themselves that these are the top 5 most important Sales Cloud features
Mm,
that we are about to release. At least they have to be uh, part of our business acumen, of our solution acumen,
mm,
because without that, a lot of times I have heard about experiences in which the client was suggesting that this is a release note and we don't need to go down this path. So I mean that basically gives the signal to the client that I'm paying for the service and I myself am answering these questions. So it gives a really bad impression. So second thing is you have to be up to date as far as Salesforce release notes are concerned,
mm.
right? And then thirdly, I would say having knowledge of other platforms, even if you are not directly working on them, but
Great point.
having knowledge about them is exceptionally important, because recently Salesforce, if I give you just one example, Salesforce acquired Velocity and renamed it to Salesforce for Industries. Just the Velocity platform, just the Industries platform, I think so it encompasses 8 or 9 different clouds.
Mm,
Yeah, they adhere to telecommunication, healthcare, e-commerce, and automotive. and I can't even recall all of them, but with this increase in velocity with which Salesforce is expanding, so it's really important to keep yourself up to date, and not just up to date. You also have to keep your clients up to date with that. So a practice that we had in the past was that if we have delivered a Service Cloud solution, let's say, then if there are any Service Cloud worthy features to be shared with the client, then even without the client reaching out to you, what we would do is we would share a small session with them. We would have a small session with them, create a small presentation, and take their input. If they're interested in going forward in evolving their processes, then we would go ahead and begin the implementation. Otherwise, if the client would say that let's park it for now,
Mm.
so that's up to them. So I think so. These three are
Good points.
the key points that are necessary in order to stay up to date and grow as a Salesforce professional.
All right. And non-technical people looking to get into the Salesforce ecosystem who doesn't have the
Mhm.
software development background,
Yes.
a few sentences on that.
Yeah, sure. Even though Salesforce is a software, Salesforce does not call it a software. Salesforce, if you recall the old logos of Salesforce, then there used to be a red mark on software that Salesforce is not just a software,
Mm.
it's a platform, it's a CRM platform. It started out that way. So a lot of the components of Salesforce, I have known a lot of such bright-minded individuals. They came from a commerce background, a finance background, marketing background, and so on. And they ended up as Salesforce technical consultants. So
Mm.
it's definitely easy. Salesforce does not have those nitty-gritties that you have to tackle with when you are deploying custom code, like the out of sync libraries, out of version libraries. Salesforce works at a more abstract level.
Mm.
And I would again go back to my previous point of learning from Trailhead, utilizing YouTube smartly,
Mm.
and that gives you a lot of confidence. So over here, since I'm working as a lead business analyst, I have a number of fellow BAs who don't necessarily come from an IT background. They have an ACCA background. Some of them have a marketing background. Some of them even have a public relations background.
Nice.
So yeah, I would say it's a very diverse field. At times, even an IT graduate may not find their Salesforce experience as enriching, and at times, a non-technical person can ace your client based on their interpersonal skills, based on their curiosity about learning a new platform. Because Salesforce is very accommodating when it comes to acclimating yourself with technology.
Mm. Nice.
So yeah, so I would say that it's of course you would have to do your home. You would have to, if you're coming from an IT background, there may be some aspects of it that would already be under your belt,
Mm.
right? And similarly, if I was, let's say, if I was starting out on Salesforce just after my computer science, I would have a hard time in understanding what a sales process is, what a support process is, why are they different?
Mm.
And now, and after coming from a pure functional background, a pure business background, I would have a hard time understanding what are objects, what are relationships, what is automation, and so on. So, I mean, there is a learning aspect from both of these sides, which basically balances out eventually.
Right. Right. That sounds great. Zishan, I must say that it was a very good conversation that I had with you, and the
Likewise,
golden
yeah.
nuggets that you have provided, like not just at a superficial, high level, vague things, but you have tried to give me something tangible for the audience to consume. And I really foresee that you're gonna in future gonna come up as one of the I would say the biggest influencers into Salesforce practice. The way I think you consume and you are committed to this space and your career, that is very refreshing and very motivating for me, and I think for the audience as well. I can't thank you enough for making the time for today and speaking with me. All the best.
Thank you, Vakar. It was wonderful catching up with you. And I consider myself as a Salesforce evangelist, right? I've been doing that for the past 4 or 5 years. So talking about Salesforce, I don't think so. There are a lot of topics that give me more pleasure in talking about
All right.
Salesforce.
All right,
All
sir.
right.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Have a good day.